If you're caring for someone experiencing an eating disorder, you've probably noticed that food seems to take up an enormous amount of their mental energy. You may find yourself wondering why they seem to think about food all the time, why meals feel so difficult, or why worries about eating seem to be impossible for them to let go of. Today, we're going to talk about something many people describe as food noise. We're going to explore what it is, why it happens, and what it can look like for someone experiencing an eating disorder. And most importantly, we're going to look at why understanding food noise can help us respond with more compassion and confidence as carers. Hi, I'm Jane, a carer of someone living with an eating disorder and a co-founder of Nourish to Flourish. This presentation combines lived experience with current evidence and independent research to provide education and support for carers, families, and anyone else interested. The information shared is intended as a general guide and should not replace advice from healthcare teams. Every person's recovery journey is unique, so please take what feels helpful, leave what doesn't, and be kind to yourself along the way. Many carers describe themselves as feeling confused, frustrated, and heartbroken. They watch someone they love become increasingly consumed by thoughts about food, eating, weight, body image, calories, or exercise. And sometimes it can feel as though every conversation somehow circles back to food. And while this can be difficult for carers to witness, it's important to understand that many people with eating disorders don't choose these thoughts. In fact, many desperately wish they could switch them off. So, what is food noise? Food noise is a term many people use to describe a constant stream of thoughts about food, eating, weight, body image, calories, exercise, and eating disorder rules. These thoughts can become repetitive, intrusive, and really difficult to switch off. And they are incredibly exhausting. For some people, food noise can take up so much of their mental space that it becomes difficult to focus on anything else. For someone experiencing food noise, their day may be filled with constant mental chatter, planning what to eat, worrying about what they've already eaten, calculating calories, questioning every food choice, second guessing their decisions. This process can continue from the moment they wake up until they go to sleep. Food noise sounds different for everyone, but some common thoughts include I shouldn't eat that, I've already eaten too much, what am I having for dinner, I need to burn this off, I'll be good tomorrow, what if I gain weight, I need to check how I look. Imagine hearing these thoughts over and over again throughout the day. It can become incredibly draining. Imagine trying to work, study, watch television, have a conversation, or spend time with friends while somebody is constantly talking in your ear. Now, imagine that voice is talking only about food, what you've eaten, what you haven't eaten, what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, how your body looks, and whether you've done enough exercise. This is often how people describe food noise. When so much mental energy is spent managing these thoughts, there is often very little left for other things. Many people describe feeling mentally exhausted, emotionally drained, and overwhelmed. It's not simply thinking about food, it's feeling consumed by food related thoughts. One of the most important things carers can understand is that food noise is not simply about willpower. There are powerful biological reasons why these thoughts can become so loud. And understanding these reasons can completely change how we view the struggle. When the body is undernourished or restricted, the brain naturally becomes more focused on food. This is not a weakness, it's a survival response. The brain's job is to keep us alive. So when nourishment is limited, the brain increases attention towards food because it's trying to solve what it sees as a threat. One of the most well known examples to show this and explain this comes from the Minnesota starvation study. So, researchers found that healthy men that had no history of eating disorders became intensely preoccupied with food when their intake was restricted. They collected recipes, they read cookbooks, they talked about food constantly, they dreamed about food, and they found it difficult to think about anything else. And this happened despite them having no eating disorder history. So, this teaches us something incredibly important. Food preoccupation is not simply a choice. The brain responds to restriction. And when someone is experiencing an eating disorder, this biological response can make food thoughts even louder. Understanding this can help us move away from judgment and towards compassion. Food noise isn't only driven by biology, it can also be driven by anxiety. Many people with eating disorders experience intense fear around food, around weight gain, body image, loss of control, or even being judged by others. These fears can make food thoughts even more persistent. The eating disorder often tells the person that following certain rules will keep them safe. If I avoid this food, I'll be okay. If I exercise enough, I'll feel better. If I follow the rules perfectly, nothing bad will happen. Unfortunately, these rules often strengthen the anxiety rather than reduce it. So let's take a closer look at how this cycle works. So, usually it begins with anxiety. The person feels worried or uncertain, overwhelmed, or even out of control. So, the eating disorder steps in and it offers them a rule. It might be something like, hey, skip those meals, exercise some more, or only eat foods that feel safe. So, following the rule usually reduces the anxiety for a little while, and the person experiences some temporary relief. But the problem is that the brain starts to believe the rule kept the person safe. And then the next time anxiety appears, the eating disorder suggests that rule again, but often with even more restrictions with it. So over time, the anxiety returns more quickly and the rules become more rigid and the eating disorder voice becomes louder and louder and more demanding. Food noise is real. The distress is real and the exhaustion is real. Many people living with an eating disorder desperately want relief. They want relief from these thoughts. They're not choosing to think about food all day. Often they're trying their very best to cope with thoughts that are feeling extremely overwhelming. So, when we understand that food noise is driven by biology, anxiety, and the effects of the eating disorder, it becomes easy to respond with compassion. Instead of asking, why won't they stop thinking about food, we begin to ask, how exhausting must this be? That shift can make a huge difference in the support that we provide. In our next video, we're going to explore something closely connected to food noise, the eating disorder voice. We're looking at how the illness uses fear, criticism, and false promises to maintain control, and how carers can begin to separate the person from the eating disorder. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. If you found this video helpful, please like it, subscribe, and share it with any other person that you think may benefit. And remember, you do not need to have the perfect words. You do not have to have all the answers, and you do not have to do this journey alone. If you would like any other further information about eating disorders, feel free to check out our website at Nourish to Flourish for Carers, and the 4 is the number 4, .weebly.com. Take care, and I hope to see you at our next video.